All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. David Tillman and Jules Miller here at Swift Transportation. Excited to talk to you about a rather big announcement today and answer some questions around our ELD and some exciting news there. Intros really quick. Again, my name is David Tillman. I work with our safety, risk, and driver development teams.
And Jules Miller, VP of Safety here at Swift.
Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate everyone logging in and taking some time for this announcement and maybe watching it after the fact. But we've got some really exciting news as it relates to our electronic logging device, our ELD. I'm going to let Jules share that news with you, but really exciting. And like I said, we're going to have some time to answer some questions too.
Yeah, and we've put out some communication lately. When we make decisions, about the technology we're putting in the trucks and things like that, those aren't decisions that we make lightly. We take, a good hard look at all the technology that's available in the industry to us and what our peers are using and what the feedback has been from our driving force and just drivers around this nation. And so I guess the exciting news today is that we've been looking at another ELD provider to replace our existing ELD Zonar. We've been testing it for well over a year.
Yeah. Over a year.
Yeah. And so that ELD provider is Geotab. And so some of you may have used that with different companies. If you've come to us recently from somewhere else, it's a solution that's been tested in the industry that we've been testing, like I said, for over a year. And now we're up to several hundred drivers and the feedback has been really, really great. So we wanted to talk today about what that looks like for you, why we've made that decision, and then field some questions, hopefully from those of you watching today.
Absolutely. Yeah. And well said. I think we'll start maybe going through some of these kind of highlighted questions. A lot of you were kind enough to send them in advance, and then we'll do our best to listen to or tune into the comments that are being sent in live. But
yeah,
would you mind, Jules, touching on first what kind of spurred this and why are we making the change at this time?
Yeah, and so I think we've been looking at the feedback that we've been getting with our existing provider Zonar, and there's been a lot of feedback about how it interacts with some of the other tablets, the reliability and connectivity issues, and how much it relies on the docking station to make a connection with the logs. You hit a railroad tracks or a bump, and your tablet bumps out, and your logs are just out of whack. And so we've been looking at providers that kind of solve for that problem, but also that just are going to be good partners for the other technology that we have in the truck. And so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I think Jules hit it on, really well. We are committed to having the best in-cab experience. Technology changes very quickly, so that's a kind of a quest we're always on. I really want to also give a shout out and thank you to all of our drivers. Some owner operators, many company drivers that tested out the product and gave the feedback. And I think you'll see as we go through, nothing's ever perfect, but we're very confident in this solution. We do think it's going to provide a much better, experience for our drivers, the way it integrates into the Point app and some of the different things. But at the end of the day, there's going to be somewhat of a learning curve, and there's been a ton of material put out there to kind of help facilitate that as well.
I think that's a pretty good segue too into, I do want to kind of highlight just some of the differences between all the tech that we have in the truck today. That in-cab experience is a cooperation of a lot of different pieces. And so I do want to be clear that really what we're changing today is highest level, we're changing the ELD product. So replacing Zonar with Geotab. That's a different app on your tablet than Point, than your navigation. The tablet itself is not a Zonar tablet or a Geotab tablet. It's a Samsung tablet. The docking stations are a different piece of equipment. So I just want to highlight really what we're focusing on today is the transition from Zonar as an ELD to Geotab as an ELD. If tablets or docking stations are damaged, those would be replaced as a part of this. But I think one cool thing to highlight too, and a good part of the feedback we've gotten is that this new ELD solution, this Geotab, doesn't rely on a connection to the docking station to manage your hours of service appropriately. So that's, I think, one of the biggest changes we're getting here is you don't have to worry about hitting a bump in the truck anymore and your logs going haywire. You'll be able to manage them just through your tablet.
Yeah, and that goes to the driver experience that we're talking about. There's going to be redundancy built in to make for a far less aggravating experience as it relates to some of that. So, but yeah, you made a good point, Jules. We're really talking about the ELD. So there is hardware as it relates to the ELD. It's not something you would always see in today's world with Zonar. That's called a V4. you'll hear the terminology, a Go 9 device. That's Geotab's device. And so every truck will be touched. A Go 9 device will be thrown in. It'll be under the dash, plugged into the ECM. That's the engine computer module. And essentially, that's what's going to transmit, your logs to the tablet. So we'll just talk about the kind of in-cab tech on that note. So most of we use Samsung Galaxy tablets. We are actually, don't want to go too much into spoiler there, but we're upgrading a lot of those as well, and we have a plan to get all those upgraded. But so you're still going to have a Samsung Galaxy tablet. You're going to have the Geotab app on that tablet, and that's going to be communicating with that Go 9 device. The Point app, that still exists. I think Jules touched on this earlier, but there's going to be some enhanced integrations that the Point app has with Geotab, just some kind of user experience type things that we think will be a little bit of an enhancement there. But it's just important to identify kind of the different pieces of it, because let's take navigation, for example. That's not changing. Navigation runs through the Point app. It has nothing to do with Geotab. Geotab is the electronic logging device, replacing where you would see with Zonar.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like any type of technology, navigation included, like we're looking at, how we continue to improve all of the in-cab tech over, a period of time, right, and into the future. But this product here specifically, Geotab, is just the ELD. So,
yeah.
Just another thing we're looking at improving the experience on. So you kind of brought up a little bit about the install, so maybe we'll start there. So installs are kind of, we've done 600 trucks already in Phoenix. We've been testing those, like I said, for quite a while. Installs are starting now in some locations, and then in the rest of the fleet really will be starting next week. That install process, just so kind of everybody's clear, right now what we're doing is we're including that installation process when you take your truck in for part of regularly scheduled service. So at this point, we're not taking, we're not pulling you aside for that, taking time out of your productivity to get into a shop, things like that. We're really focusing on just regularly scheduled service, and we'll just add that installation as part of it. It's about a 45 to 60-minute installation. Some shops will be a little bit faster, I think, but that's kind of what you can expect for that.
Yeah. I would say make sure you take the training course if you haven't already. We've been blasting that out there on transmission, some other areas on the portal. For the drivers. So very, very important you take that. It's pretty intuitive. I would say very intuitive. That's a lot of the feedback we've been given, but just take the training course. And hopefully, I know Trucker Tim in the comments dropped that question in there a little bit earlier. So hopefully that answers that for you. It's going to be done at regularly scheduled service. Takes about 45 to 60 minutes to get it done, depending on the make and model of the truck. So.
Yeah, and so get through that training definitely, and this is going to be for the entire fleet, so company and owner ops, and we're going to work on those installations as long as it takes to get them complete. But again, like we said, that primary focus is going to be on with regularly scheduled service. I will say, and this is really a best practice, I think definitely before you go in and get an install, because I want to talk about how that transition between one ELD and another looks like, but always best practice. When you stop your truck and you're going to be getting out of it for a period of time for shop service, you go on home time, anything like that, you always want to make sure you're taking a really good look at your logs before you get out of your truck. Make sure you're in the right status. Your logs are certified every time so that we know that it was you and everything's been reviewed and it's correct, and that you log fully out of your ELD and out of Point before you get out of your truck. So if somebody else takes it and it's running around, you're not coming back from home time and seeing a bunch of drive time stuck on your logs that you can't fix. So just best practice all the time, but especially when you take your truck to the shop or home time, review, certify your logs, and log out of everything on the truck.
That's a great call out. That will really help prevent a lot of these UDLs as well that are trying to be assigned to you. We always say it, log what you do what you log.
Yeah.
But it goes a long way. If you're taking any time off or getting on the truck, log out. You will save yourself so much headache.
Yeah, and I think another important part of that transition too, and some of you are probably thinking, all right, if I switch ELD providers, what happens to my logs? Good news is, as a part of this process, we've worked it out to when you get that transition, when your Zonar is uninstalled and a Geotab ELD is installed in your truck, or that app is switched out, really is what we're doing, your past 8 days of logs from Zonar will actually transfer to your Geotab logs. So you won't need to do like a 10-hour break or a 34-hour reset to like reset your clocks and stuff like that. When you get into your truck after the Geotab's installed, it'll take 15-20 minutes for everything to download and get, all the data to come through the airwaves and all that kind of stuff. But you'll get all of your logs. You can review them, recertify them on your Geotab, and your clocks will be right. You could be in the middle of a shift and start right back up where you left off in terms of your hours of service. So that should be seamless.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Just a quick question that came in. Will this be compatible for Walmart Dedicated? Just one point to clarify: this is going to go out to all of our different lines of businesses at Swift. So, whether you're Walmart grocery, dry dedicated, line haul, reefer OTR, reefer dedicated, intermodal, flatbed. I hope I didn't miss anybody. You are going to be getting the Geotab device installed. So this will be going out to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, we touched on that. This is another cool one too, and it's something we've had feedback on just kind of over the years in general about our ELD is accessibility outside of the cab. And I know not everybody wants a bunch of apps on their cell phone, right? So certainly not required, but I did want to call this out for anybody that has interest. So with kind of this transition, Geotab has an app that you actually can download on your phone too, just like the handful of you that have the Point app on your phone. And it will allow you to manage your hours of service kind of from anywhere. So if I get out of my truck and I leave it at the shop and I go on home time or whatever the case may be, and I go, oh my goodness, I left myself on duty or something, and I'm sitting in my lounger at home, I can switch myself to off duty using the app. And I think one point to call out there too, we may have had a question about this. When the app looks at whether or not your truck is moving, you're in a driving status, it's not going to look at your phone data. It's using that piece of hardware that we're talking about that's installed under the truck's dash. So if you have it on your phone and you get in an Uber, it's not going to put you on the drive line or something like that. It's based off the data from the truck. But yeah, smartphone app for any that want to take advantage of that. It's available out in the marketplace. It works really well.
That's perfect. That was a question from Bud. So good stuff. All right. So we want to go through kind of the everyday reminders of ELD expectations.
Yeah, I think so. Number one of the things we've been talking about is the pre-trip inspection. So Geotab has a workflow within their app called Asset Inspection, which is what you'll be using moving forward to do your pre-trip inspection of your truck or your truck and your trailer. Good news is now we have the results of those inspections that you do integrated into our shop. So that'll give us a much more seamless process of managing equipment that should be out of service, being able to notify you of that, timeliness on service to our equipment. So we're hoping that will have a good impact down the line on equipment maintenance as well, just ability to find good equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot. There's a ton of different training courses out there, but when we're confident that the CLD will make the user experience much better, but want to be clear as it relates to managing your logs and do that. That's so critical. And there's no solution that just automatically does that for anybody. But, your logs are absolutely your responsibility as the professional driver. Now we're going to, coach and monitor logs and look at logs, but just everything, doing the pre-trip every day. Log what you do what you log, taking your rest period breaks, not driving over your 11, 14, 70, not misusing personal conveyance, doing a pre-trip, logging it through the EVIR every day, building that habit. That is going to be so critical. And you're going to hear us talk about it a lot. It's certainly an expectation we have of all of our driving associates. And so I just say that, definitely expect us to be coaching on that. And but hey, we're confident in our drivers' ability to do that. We know we've got some fantastic professional drivers, but there will be. I just don't want anyone to be blindsided by anything like that.
Yeah, I think all of kind of the same rules apply. Managing your hours of service, maintaining your clocks. I think one thing to call out too, important for our group, and this is one thing that I think will be easier on Geotab too, is just certifying your logs every single day. It's something that we still get a handful of violations on here and there, and I think maybe it's not the easiest to see with our older provider, but with Geotab, you'll have, it'll be the very first thing you see every day is certify your logs, and just remember those are the expectations to do it every day at the end of your shift.
And that helps all of our downstream processes. So certainly that helps keep us compliant, but as our planner's ability to plan you, your driver leader's ability to manage you best and help guide you is so reliant on your logs being accurate. And if you're certifying them every day, that's just going to make the whole process a lot easier for you.
Yeah. Yep. So. And then I think the other thing to call out, and this has kind of been the case for a while too, and with our older provider, but just in talking about technology and advancement of technology, one thing you also want to know always is where to find your ELD manuals, your instruction card, your malfunction and diagnostics guide, your user manual. Back in the day, that was an actual card that you had in your permit book or a actual piece of paper that you had to show the officer roadside. They've been electronic for some time now, and so we've got all of those in the flow code. So it's in the permit flow code, it's in the safety flow code under ELD information. It's also in your Point app. If you hit that home button, there's an option in the menu that says, I think it says ELD manuals or ELD information or something. You're going to always want to know where those are roadside. And all those flow codes now are updated with both Zonar's manuals and Geotab's manuals. So whatever you have today, if you get pulled over roadside, all those manuals are in the same place. So I wanted to call that out too.
Yeah.
And we did get a question about usernames and passwords. It's another cool thing. We have an integration with Geotab. So when you log into Point and you click on your hours of service tile, it will actually single sign you on into your Geotab app. It will work the same way on your tablet as it will on your phone if you decide to get the smartphone apps for your phone. So there's no extra username and password to remember. It'll just seamlessly take you from one to the other. So
yeah, that'll save a lot of headache.
Yeah.
A lot of phone calls. So
yep.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think
let's hit some questions.
We touched base on a lot of kind of the overview, but we're going to go through and actually feed some questions. I see one of them here from our good friend Charlie, one of our owner operators. Shout out to Contractors Corner, but his question really more feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
But love the Geotab app. Just need to sort out the cradles. The docking station, that's something we're always looking at as well, right? And there are some upgrades being made there, so that's good feedback. Certainly from Charlie and team there. We touched on when will this launch. So I think just to reiterate that this is starting right now, and we'll be really going full bore here over the rest of this quarter into the next quarter, with our goal of honestly being done by early summer, where the entire fleet would be on Geotab at that point. So with some dedicated on sites. Not to say we're neglecting those at all, but sometimes those are a little bit harder to reach if we don't see the trucks quite as often. But as Jules mentioned, regularly scheduled service, you're going to have this added, and then new trucks that we're in servicing, we're going to put one of these in right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right. So there's a question here from Jimmy Moore. Geotab is much easier to operate. Will we still have adverse weather? I believe he's referring to the adverse weather exemption from FMCSA. That's really not something that is built into the log. We're not going to have that feature turned on, but timely in the sense of we just dealt with probably one of the most nationwide snowstorms we've had in a long time. Last weekend, Kansas City over to Richmond, Virginia, and then later in the week, Albuquerque to Atlanta, Georgia. What I would say about that, and feel free to chime in, Jules, is certainly, expect the drivers to be the captain of the ship. Sometimes we will close terminals down, the gates down, not let anyone out or anything like that, and ask you to get off the roads. I think that's important this time of year. But as far as the actual exemption on the ELD, that's not a functionality we'll have turned on.
No, it's not one that we will have turned on. And I will say that too. Like, I think our teams did a really great job making good decisions over the course of this storm, but that is our expectation. It's kind of the same thing with chainings, like chaining your tires. Just get out of trouble instead of trying to power through it or spend the extra time to get through weather. Just park it. Yep.
All right. Let's go. Quick question from Ike Ishman. Can we sign into Geotab before it gets installed?
No, you won't be able to. It's best to wait, and you want to wait because part of that logging in for the first time process is your log transfer. So you don't want your Zonar logs to be pulled over to your new Geotab set of logs before you have a truck that's equipped with the ELD. So you'll have to actually log in, you'll have to wait until it's installed in your truck. But like I said, definitely complete the training and get through that so you're familiar with it before you get to that point.
Yeah, and to Jules' point, the Swift U class has some really good overview of what your experience is going to look like. Mm-hmm. But you can Google Geotab, you can look it up on YouTube, and you'll see a lot of how the user interface looks and the functionality as well as read some comments about it, from various users.
Yeah, and I will say too, just to kind of touch on like the training subject, our operations staff and our safety staff have been through their own training on sort of the back end of what this looks like from an operational perspective, but they're all going through the same training that you are so that they understand what the product looks like from in the cab as well. So we should have support across the whole business, kind of everybody ready to take your questions. Log support team is ready, to field any questions that you might have too, and feedback. I think feedback is a really important part of inputting anything new into our business. So we want to hear that feedback, whether you send that in a voice your choice, call the log support team, email the log support team, talk to your leaders and let them forward that feedback into us. But we've got the support there and ready for you if you have any questions after going through that training. And please send us your feedback as well too.
Awesome. Question from Gabby Baez. Will Geotab work even if it's not docked? You touched on this. I've had issues with my tablet not docking when I hit a bump. So you want to just reiterate that?
Yeah. So with the Geotab ELD, it's got a seamless connection. I'm not super smart on the whole technology piece, so I'm not going to say exactly how that connection works, but it's got a seamless connection to where it's going to be managed through your tablet alone. It's not relying on the docking station. Now, that said, you still want to have the tablet docked because you want to have it secured in a secure place for your navigation and anything while you're in the cab. You're still going to be using that docking station for charging, but it's not going to have an impact on your logs if it's not in the dock.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest differences, right? Because current version, if that pin comes slightly undocked, you could get a UDL or it might not recognize the last driving trip.
Yeah.
With Geotab, there's redundancy there, and that's what we were talking about in terms of the user experience and just the driver's ability to understand their logs a little bit more clearly there. So,
not gonna have to play games cleaning all the pins and all that kind of stuff. You just want to make sure your tablet's charging.
So very good. And then when can I switch to Geotab? That is
coming soon to a terminal near you.
That is underway. And again, regularly scheduled maintenance. So you do not need to call, schedule anything. In fact, that just wouldn't work for the shop. It creates a little bit of an undue burden. So we just ask, be patient. Your next scheduled kind of service that you already have coming in for your truck, they're going to get you in there. There could be some exceptions to that, but if that's the case, that's going to come from your driver leader, your terminal leader, or again, on the new in-service trucks that we're putting in. We will be putting in the Geotab right to start there.
We want to be mindful of your time too. And so if you come in just with the regularly scheduled maintenance, it's going to be the best case scenario for the shop's ops for your time. You want to end up spending extra time waiting. So that's the plan.
Question from Bobby. Will we still have the way station bypass with this new system?
Yeah, so we'll have DriveWise and Best Pass that we've been using. I don't know, how long have we been on that now? 6?
About 6 months back. So DriveWise is your bypass solution that is software based, coming right to the tablet. And then Best Pass is tolling solution, right? So, but yes, the answer is all of our tablets will still have the DriveWise setup on them.
Yeah, we're trying to make it the most seamless in-cab experience that we can. So kind of just working with those. We'll have a little bit better integration there too. And I think a little bit.
And that's just a good question. And we'll refresh this on SwiftView, but there's a course on SwiftView around DriveWise as well. And just making sure that functionality is working for you. Obviously, if you can bypass a way station, that's a great benefit. Yeah. So you want to make sure that that's working. Save you. So we'll republish that, but yes, the answer is yes. We will still have the bypass.
And I think there actually is at the very end of the Geotab training, there is a portion on DriveWise to make sure you have settings turned on and all that kind of stuff. So we've got that in there as well.
Perfect. Maggie makes a comment here. Me as a mentor, there's times that it's hard to get one of my students to log off the Geotab Why is that at times? Have we received some feedback?
Yeah, I think really the biggest thing, and this kind of goes back to best practices, is when you leave the truck or when your student gets out of your truck, you want to make sure that they're logging off everywhere. And so I think best case scenario with the student, you want to make sure that they're logging out of the ELD and out of point in the truck. But I would also have them do the same thing on their phone if they're using the phone app, so they get logged out everywhere. And then when they get into their own truck or they get on with the new mentor, they can log back in that way and kind of get resynced back up. But best case scenario is just log out everywhere, disassociate them from the truck, and then that should solve that.
It's a great call out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Question from Jared Nelson. David and Jules, as an owner operator, will this come out of our settlement when switching to Geotab for the installation? That is one I'm going to need to follow up on. I will do that though, and we'll get a response back to Jared, and I think post it to the group so everyone's clear on that. All right. Let's see. What else do we got coming in? Question from Kaylee Moore. When I was stacked on teams, I ran into an issue where I got pulled in for an inspection. When I was solo in the separate truck, DOT had an issue with the co-driver still showing. So that's sounds like a similar issue. Need to make sure whether that's a student and a mentor or a co-driver, log out. I think that solves so many problems that we've seen, not just with logs, but just the functionality of the point app and everything. It's just a best practice.
Yeah, I will say too, and kind of the other direction too, when you are still going to be in the truck, don't log out unless you're getting out. But best practice is when you leave a truck, log out everywhere. The ELD and, well, I say everywhere, but the ELD and the point app, which will log you out of everything else. Just clear yourself off that truck.
Question from David Gutierrez. Will owner operators also be getting Geotab? The answer is yes.
Yes, whole fleet. Yep.
All right. Answered those. Is a question from Jessica Russett. Is there a helpline for Geotab?
Yes, and this is a good question. So with Zonar, we had a couple of different phone numbers we could call, some internal, some for Zonar. Just to make clear too, this is not a Zonar product. So if you have it, don't call Zonar, don't email Zonar, but we have log support, our internal teams. And so we can, you're showing that's logs. So log support's information is at the bottom of the screen, but this is also again in your flow codes. So in the safety flow code, there's a click to call button for log support, or if you go into the ELD information portion of the safety flow code, which is the very top button in the safety flow code, there's also a click to call button for log support there as well. And if you're using it from your cell phone, click, call, you're on the phone with them, and they are ready for you. Perfect. But like I said earlier, ops and safety and everybody has been through this training and seeing the same thing that you are seeing. So there should be a lot of lines of support in addition to log support as well.
Very good. All right. Let's see. I've funneled through a bunch of these. Some of these are just comments, but very, very appreciate the congratulations comment, Alan Hickey. Let's see. All right.
Yeah, I think
we've got most. When can I switch? We touched base on that.
What was that one up there? Technical difficulties, guys. Bear with us.
So we won't be able to log in on the iOS app until it's installed in our truck.
Yeah. Yep. So don't download you can download the phone app, but don't log in until it's installed in your truck. Yep.
All righty.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's most of the live questions I think we got through. Certainly appreciate everyone's comments and questions coming in. I think, I just have a couple more thoughts, and then we'll let Jules kind of close this out. But again, so appreciative of all of our drivers that take this so seriously, logging and logging appropriately and abiding by the hours of service, and then Swift's, policies around hours of service is very critical to you being successful at your job. And, I think some best practices, just to reiterate, when you're leaving the truck, and especially you're going to leave it to the shop, log out. That'll prevent some UDLs and some other things there. But I just think overall, so proud of all of our drivers and what they do every day. And, I know we're talking about Geotab here, but Jules talked about it last week with the weather. Just saw so many decisions to kind of shut down. And, it's just always really good to see drivers making those really impactful decisions. But
yeah, and I think you hit on a lot of the great points, but I would say the same thing, like super appreciative of our folks. We've got, one of the best groups of folks out over the road, I think, out there possible. And I think that shows too in how many people were willing to a year and a half ago, test this product with us and give us their, time and feedback and resources to be able to make this something that we feel very confident is going to work, make the job easier, make the in-cab experience better. So, we're excited about this and the improvements it's going to make for you and for our business. And just excited to get started with this. So make sure you know where your resources are and the flow codes. Give us your questions, your comments, your concerns, your feedback. Just like anything else in the cab, we want to keep looking at how this product works, how it's working for our business, and continue to make it something that's going to keep making us better. Thanks, everybody.